The intricate dance between nations. In the shadows of Washington, D.C., a quiet yet powerful campaign was underway, one that will ultimately lead to the reinstatement of U.S. sanctions against Nigeria. The issue at hand, widespread ethno-religious killings that sparked international outrage. But what drove this decision, and who were the key players involved? As we peel back the layers, it becomes clear that the work of organizations and individuals like NINAS and others played a pivotal role in shaping U.S. policy. The question now is, what's next for Nigeria, and how will this impact the country's trajectory? This is the Eastern Eye. I'm Alex Ogbodo. You're welcome to the Eastern Eye, a program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. After the break, we'll be joined by Tony Nnadi. He's the Secretary General, LNC, and co-convener of NINAS. He will throw more light on the issues that actually precipitated what we're seeing now as U.S. threats and even sanctions against Nigeria, following the issues around the ethno-religious killings and, of course, Christian persecution has been widespread in Nigerian media and internationally. That's after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Eastern Eye here on AFIA TV, a program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Joining me tonight is Tony Nnadi. He is the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress and co-convener of NINAS. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye. Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. I say thank you. Welcome, viewers.
All right, thank you. I mean, the whole issue about where we found ourselves now as a country, looking at the issues that the president of the U.S. had to raise himself, it looks like it didn't start today. Help us, take us back memory lane, how everything we are seeing today may have actually precipitated.
Yes, I'm sure that our viewers will remember that for most of 2019, we were in Washington discussing with the U.S. What will happen with the terror networks that were converging in West African sub-region. At the time Buhari was president, Buhari threw our borders open to bring in Fulani from all over the sub-region to come in and just do as they deem fit. You remember too that in that period that the U.S. was at war with ISIS in the Middle East. And the ISIS had relocated from the Middle East, trying to reinforce themselves in the West African sub-region. And what we had to go to do was to tell them that this thing is happening in our space. Our president, who is a sympathizer of extreme Islamists, is a champion of Sharia. He's involved with Fulani herdsmen that had become notorious at the time. He's the live grand patron of Bietiana and all of that. And he had said it publicly after he left office as a military head of state that he was going to use everything that comes within his reach to pursue Sharia to no end. That is, the whole country will come under Sharia if he had its way. And so it was in that kind of a setting that we had to go to Washington. That's the team I led, had to go to Washington to whisper to them that we have something we could do that will solve this problem for them. That is to say, the Constitution of Nigeria, I want our people to listen carefully, because what Trump said was that they will come here unless something happens to arrest the situation. The reason I'm on TV now is to share with the peoples of Nigeria, the government of Nigeria, and all of those who may have some stake in what happens here. It is the national security interests of the United States that have been injured by Nigeria repeatedly. You saw the visa restriction. It was because our database is compromised. Buhari threw the borders open and people Fulani came from everywhere. And Pantami was documenting them as Nigerians. And so somebody comes with a Nigerian passport who is a trained fighter from the Middle East or wherever they come from. They have become Nigerians because they could come here and be documented as Nigerian. That's what the US was talking about when they when they changed everything about the visa situation. And so in that 2019, we went to raise that alarm in January. I'm sure most of us saw the videos there, and you can pick some pictures from the era if you have them. We went to raise the alarm that these things are happening in this space, and that if they will listen to us, that we're going to tell them what could be done to arrest the ISIS that had come to our sub-region, becoming ISWAP with Boko Haram and all the other agencies of Al-Qaeda and the other networks. And that the man who is our president and his government, that the constitution, that's the Buhari of the time, that the constitution of Nigeria, which they imposed, is the reason they're able to do what they're doing. And that we, the Nigerians, who are the victims of the situation, because the killings were happening all over the place, that we of Nigeria, who are supposed to be living under that constitution, are now together in saying we can pull back our signature that was implanted on that constitution against our own, without our consent. That if we pull it down, that constitution will go down. And the union that, because it's that constitution that brings the Fulani and everybody else into our space, will then redefine our union in a manner that will quarantine them to a smaller space. Because Ijo will be on Ijo land, Yoruba will be on Yoruba land, Anang will be on Anang land. Everybody will be in their lands. We will then go to a meeting to rework our union. The 1914 union was not our union. It hasn't become our union in 1999 because, again, agents of the old order imposed a constitution, and for some reason, people who are supposed to know that they have a problem and to look for solutions to that problem are carrying on with a constitution that rendered them slaves in their homeland, as if it doesn't matter. And people are dying in this number simply because this constitution is still in place. There's no other thing that is the reason for what the US is now coming to solve by themselves. After we finished everything in that 2019, we had the privilege of addressing the Senate committee, the House committee, all in Capitol Hill. I was the one that led the team, and I'm in a position to report today where that CPC is coming from, because it was the culmination of what we did at the time that became the Nigeria got designated as a country of particular concern. And what has happened now is the reinstatement of that status. What does that status mean? It means that, and of course, let us also recall that in December of 2019, they had put Nigeria on a watch list. That is, at the level of watch list, you are being told to the hearing of the whole world that you are stepping on the national security interests of the United States. And that it's not just the US. Everywhere terror can go is what you are now breeding the terror that will travel, like Iran have been doing, breeding terror. And so Nigeria had put itself in that same category as Iran, as Afghanistan, at the time they were breeding this terror, and everything everybody tried to do to get them to stop, they wouldn't stop. And so we told the US that all of us who are victims, who are Nigerians, but who are victims of that Fulani ethnic agenda that is wearing the garment of jihad. This talk about Christian genocide is the front end of it. The back end is that there is an ethnic, mask. There's an ethnic human wearing the mask of jihad. Yes, you see, most of the people they are killing who happen to be in the middle belt and in south, in fact, the southern fringes of Borno, Gombe, all the way to Kebbi on the other extreme, who happen to be Christians. It just happened that they are Christians. But why are they killing people in Zamfara? Why are they killing people in Katsina, in Kebbi and all the other places who are also Muslims? So it's basically an ethnic Fulani conquest agenda being driven from all over the sub-region, but Nigeria as the hub. And so the US agreed with us that the solution we had offered, that is to say that we're going to take down the 1999 Constitution and force a discussion that will push them back into a smaller space, unplug them from our national resources in terms of being head over us in a constitution that puts everything in their hands. The guns that are not available today to those who have been slaughtered in Benue, in Plateau, in Southern Kaduna and elsewhere, in Kwara now, the reason it's happening is that the Constitution of Nigeria put the guns beyond them. There's nothing that will solve that problem than that constitution going down, and the owners of the sovereignty, the ones who live in that danger, taking charge. There's no other. The corruption we see, the insecurity of other types we see, the infrastructural decay we see, the Nigeria that has become the poverty capital of the world, it is on account of this constitution. Those who are doing democracy under the constitution that render everybody slave, we have been shouting and telling you what needs to be done. You have refused to do it. The international community led by the US, in fact, the US can act unilateral, are going now to, you saw what happened in Gaza. They were telling them, stop. If you don't stop, we'll come and stop you. They refused. Now, the US says, we will come to solve this problem because that's what the CPC brings you to. The US can come to that space and solve that problem by itself. But there's a window, which is why we are speaking today to everybody. Anybody who knows where to find Bola Tinubu should get him to listen to this before he takes himself to Washington. Because in 2019, while we were there sharing evidence of what was going on in Nigeria with them, what's his name? Buhari dispatched Oshibajo, the vice president at the time, Christian, professor of law, Yoruba. They are killing your people, and Buhari dispatched you to come to Washington to lie to them that no killing is taking place, which is the kind of thing Bishop Kuka is doing now. Can anybody tell me why Hassan Matthew Kuka will tell the world that no killing is no killing of the nature that is alleged that's going on? We can understand the charlatans like Panika or Remy, or the ones that buy on kind of people. We can understand those ones. But why will Matthew Kuka be the one to go and bear false witness in the global stage? I know what is in the file. I know how the CPC was arrived at. It was the election of 2020 that brought Biden and his Blinken, who then removed Nigeria from that list. At the time, the killings were increasing. Luckily, Trump comes back, and the killings are not abated. All he did after the election was to say that the executive order under which they were planning this kind of action we're hearing now, Trump gave a 180-day drawdown. Let those who want to research. What happened under the executive order that was signed in June of 2020, before the election happened in November, that brought Biden. And so this was where the matter was coming from as at that time. We have had every opportunity to do what we need to do. What is that thing we need to do to arrest this situation? Let us suspend any talk of election and go into fixing the constitution that will arrest the situation that has gone out of control. There's the only window left. Nigeria has less than 2 months. From what I know, Nigeria has less than 2 months to solve this problem by themselves. They have been postponing it since 1967. They have been postponing it from 1999. Let us realize we don't have a union. Can Bola Tinubu mobilize the country now around his flag? Can I be mobilized behind the flag of Nigeria today? Can those being slaughtered in the Middle Belt be mobilized behind that flag? Can the young people slaughtered at the toll gate be mobilized behind that flag? The union has collapsed. Then a few people gather in Abuja. Every month they share money. They are selling crude oil. There's no part of that money that is meant for the citizens of the country. They are announcing GDP to us. And some hooligans gather with them to say they are doing democracy under the constitution that guarantees the killing that is going on. Somebody like Peter Obi, anybody who knows where to find him now, should tell him to leave everything he's doing and listen. All of those who are doing democracy under this constitution will be the first set of targets if this matter becomes rifle show. But we have a little time window to solve it by ourselves. We have a little time window to solve it by ourselves. Let us go now and announce to the world, like South Africa did in 1990, that we will suspend the elections and go and discuss the union constitution. If we are not doing that, people are going to take extraordinary steps to save themselves. And when the guns begin to boom, we saw it in Gaza. For Trump to say they will come dancing, it's not only the government that will come on that at that time. It will be everybody everywhere. The rest of us who are not in government, the rest of us who are not sharing money with them, must now find the wisdom to do what needs to be done in little time left, that thing is that we must suspend the journey to election, go into a transition to rework the constitution of Nigeria. I think that's the backdrop I can bring to it.
All right, so Mr. Nnadi, now that we understand this, you are saying that we have about 2 months window to deal with this and come out of the web that might emerge. What needs to happen between now and the next 2 months if Nigeria wants to get out of this? And you've been talking about reworking the constitution. How will that happen?
The 5-point proposition of NINAS that is contained in the constitutional force majeure we put on the table since December of 2020. Those 5 points brings us to where, and I'm not telling you what's going on inside my head, I'm telling us what was discussed in Washington for 7 months. That the solution to this problem, and Washington already bought into it and went on to get the UN. I'm talking about in 2019 when the UN rapporteur called Agnes Callamard, we left Washington in July of 2019. By August, that UN mission was already here to investigate the judicial killings happening in Nigeria. Blood all over the place. Fulani Hesman is killing, soldiers are killing, terrorists are killing, bandits is killing. You go to the eastern part, again, everything upside down. You go to Ijaw territory, they say resource control in blood and more blood. And so it is that matter of that constitution, because that was the act of the visitation of Agnes Callamard, the rapporteur mission. She says, the report says that the reason blood is flowing all over Nigeria is because of the constitution that operates in Nigeria, constitution that operates like for injustice. We can research it. Agnes Callamard in 2019, September. They came in August, went around the country, and came to the conclusion. Meaning that the outside world, the international community, those who are concerned about what happened if Nigeria snaps, are to tell us that this constitution is source of our problems, whether it's the poverty or the corruption or the decay in everything. This constitution is the reason we are where we are, including everything you can point, every single thing you can point. And so, what needs to happen now? Address the concern when they say country of particular concern. What is the concern of the youth in our subregion? That concern is terror that is breeding in our place that will come to them as in a matter of time. That terror can go to Europe. That terror can go everywhere. And if we come to where that terror now collapses in Nigeria, 230 million people will be looking for where to run to. Who in West Africa can receive even 10 million? Our neighbors all the way to Ghana cannot receive even 10 million. The rest will face every direction. And then the terror networks will then have them because there will be nobody in control. The terror networks will move in and we have Afghanistan times 10 in our hands. That's what we are risking. And so what needs to happen in this time window is for the government of Nigeria, is for those who might suffer if this is snap or come to where the U.S. is now coming to stop the source of that terror that will come to them. What needs to happen is an announcement covering those 5 points of opposition. The government must now agree with us, with the rest of with the owners of Nigeria, that the unified constitution of Nigeria is the source of all the problems. The government must not commit to solving that problem by the commission of that constitution. The government must know we can go to another election because we know that the election will swear to defend and uphold this constitution. So we're back to where we are. And so that's the item 3 they have to cover, that we're not going to another election under this constitution. Then item 4 is that for the first time, there will be a meeting of the owners of the sovereignty. They were not consulted in 1914. They were not consulted in 1999. All of what happened between 1914, whether you're talking about 1922 or 1946 or 1954 of Richardson and McPherson and all those constitutions we saw, None of them came from the people. Even the so-called independence constitution and the one of 1963. For the ones who say, oh, let's go back to 1963. 1963 was only an amendment to 1960. For those who have been telling us that if only we went back there, all will be well. It was a parliament action. Constitutions are not made by parliament. And so it is accept that we have not made any constitution. The one that was imposed by decree is the source of all our problems, every one of them. Secondly, that we have to decommission it now. Third, that we can to another election under this constitution. That's what put the time frame to it, that to come within the demands of what has happened now. The fourth is that it's a two-stage process. The two-stage process of how to rework the constitution. It's not the booklet that we are talking about. It is the union agreement. Ijo in Ijo land, discussing with Yoruba that owns Yoruba land, and the Birom that owns Birom land, and the Edo that owns the Edo land, and Igbo that owns Igbo land. All of the parchments of lands that are aggregated and considered into the Nigerian Union. It is the peoples of those territories who could have been countries of their own. Yoruba will be a country of 60 million, 70 million people today. If Nigeria was not occupying their space and ruining their lives, look at what's going on in Kwara. The eastern side, Ijo and Oni and Anang and Efik can agree to be by themselves or to be with Igbo. Let it be their decision. That's what their sovereignty that is inalienable entitles them to. And that is the case all the way to what the UN says about what is available. The UN, describes the situation to say you are entitled to be your ancestral space. If anybody to do union with them, that person has to agree with you and you agree with the person. If you can't agree, then everybody will have to find a way to adjust himself. You can't come and impose yourself on the person in his own ancestral space. Scots in Scotland, Catalans in Catalonia, and the ones in Quebec, that's what it is universally. It's only in Nigeria that British will come and lock together civilizations that are opposed inconceivably. The civilization that requires somebody to kill me as leader, the ones doing Sharia. The civilization that allows him to tell me lies, AFIA, whereas I'm to tell the truth. I forbid killing in my state. I can't spill human blood in my space. My tradition forbids it. The religion that came, Christianity, forbids it. But the people you are dealing with in the union of Nigeria, that's not our union until we discuss it and discuss our union, and we make it a union of life. It's just an imposition on us. They are holding us at gunpoint in the union of gunpoint. So we're going to stand for that Nigeria now, assuming that there's a state that is coming to all of us. Not to be the basis of mobilization, because everybody is already looking for how to save themselves from that Nigeria. 3/4 of the people who want to mobilize will actually do whatever it will take to put that Nigeria to death, including me. If it is Nigeria defined by this constitution, whatever it will take to bring down that unity in Nigeria is what I'm prepared to do and do 10 again. And that's what most people who know what the problem is. If I'm not talking about Nigeria the Federation, if it is Nigeria the Federation that we have to restore today, I'll be on the construction side. But if it is the Nigeria of unitary Nigeria and people swear to defend and uphold this abomination, 4 years will pass, another 4 years will pass. We've been doing so since 1999. Why can't that sanity return to a people so that we can continue like this? Let us stop and fix what has gone wrong. The ones that are in Abuja and the governors who go to join them every day, the ones who are standing in the way of these 230 million people who are ignorant, they've impoverished them so much that they couldn't even think straight anymore. There's no you can do with the kind of thing they done. They divided everybody up, and they're planning an election in 2027 under the see where those parties will go to. Let me see where they will be in another 2 months from now. So your question, what are they to do? That's an announcement that South Africa made in 1990 to say that their party can no longer carry their society, and therefore they were going to go into a meeting to discuss, which became today's. The fifth item I've listed for, the fifth item is a time-bound announcement. That time-bound, that announcement by whoever is claiming government of Nigeria to say that we will go to solve this problem. That is the only thing that is going to make sense to anybody watching it right now. That one said, Go do it yourself or they're on their way. They already mobilized. They mobilized before Biden came to disrupt everything. And so we must use this window. We are not. This matter goes beyond government. The people who will suffer, because if it becomes a shooting and missile, a lot of things are going to be disrupted. And to be sure that the U.S. may have its own objectives beyond what they say, but we have an opportunity to get ahead of all of that now. This is not the time for Tinubu to begin to go to look for ban. Go to tell ban that people are not being killed, but that we can enjoy it. It's not the matter for anything short of committing to removing the source of the problem. It's the source of the problem. It's not the one you send the head of to go and bring one more person, or the head of us to go and a few bandits and begin to make a social of it.
All right.
To extinguish the source of this problem.
That's right. We need to take a break. You're welcome back to the Eastern Hour here on AFIA TV, a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. I still have Mr. Tony Nnadi on the line from Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So let's, there has to be a way to deal with this. I've looked around and there seem to be statements flying left, right, and center from those in government and those outside of government. How do you think that some of those statements, some of them highly inflammable, and some of them, I don't know what to say, some of them are outrightly threatening the U.S. If they attempt to invade Nigeria? I don't know what you make of some of the statements you've seen in the last 48 hours from some Nigerians.
They are ignorant people. They are ignorant and dishonest people, but mostly ignorant. The ones who know a little are being dishonest. And charlatans like Gumi that say we should cut off relations. Gumi that is the one organizing the terror. He is telling the rest of us to cut off relationship with United States. Is that the kind of thing we should be listening to? Or the one that says, what have we not heard from people I don't even know how to describe the kind of thinking that is going on in their midst. We saw the National Assembly people already talking about sending delegation that will go and lobby colleagues when Ted Cruz and co were still talking about accountability law, for Nigeria. And so they don't know what they are talking about. The person speaking with you now is an inner part of the process that became CPC in 2020. From the first to the last, what was the complaint, what was going to be done. The US had the discipline to listen for 7 whole months. From when we were trying to describe the problem to them to where they now have to invite the victims. I'm sure you saw when the mother of Leah Sharibu had all kinds of people, victims of the South Adara Kingdom, people that were, all those they could find. The US government invited them. I only saw them in Washington when I got there because we had come to raise their alarm and we had told them what could be done. And they felt that because it was their national security, their number one national security challenge at the time, before COVID came later. At the time, it was what with the terror networks of the Middle East that were now converging in the West African sub-region with Nigeria as the hub. And so this president that is here now was the one that brokered the coming of the Buhari that now opened the borders to bring all of them in the numbers we saw. And so that's fallen on him. That is the president. If it has fallen on him to deal with this matter, this is not the time to send characters like Bayo Ononuga to begin to talk. This situation is above all those who have been talking trash. We know what the problem is. We have discussed it with the people who are now telling them what must happen because they are endangering the security of many countries. In fact, in that report of Agnes Callamard, the rapporteur mission of the UN that came to declare Nigeria's constitution pressure cooker for injustice. So today, it is that constitution that is the reason Uganda is upside down because it's the constitution that took their oil and gas. There's nothing you are going to do to restore. This is what they say, resource control. There's nothing you are going to do to bring resource under the control of a just owner. There's nothing you are going to do about security. If my security is in the hands of those who are going to eliminate me, That's what we're living with. If my infrastructure is in the hands of those who plan to decimate me, that's what we're living with. If my electoral process is in the hands of those who are interested in selecting, look at what has happened everywhere. The kind of people that they're bringing about. And so they go to the judicial side. Look at what the Supreme Court did to the election and all of what the Constitution stated that happened. Government has abandoned the Constitution even in the limited toleration we were extending to the sake of peace so that we can get to where we're discussing this matter around the table. So everything is gone. And what has to happen now is those who are in that danger, because if you allow spending for me to be speaking for you to say, oh, America can take us on, we will fight you to the end. Who are the we? I asked Femi for who is that we that we are talking about? If we cannot define the union of Nigeria to be our union, today is not our union. So we cannot be talking about we that will go and fight anybody that is coming. Let us define the we as can fit into the preamble to your position. So it will be we that include me. Not the we that will be and those who come together, the governors that come together to say, those who try to defend for this position, those who are contesting the election, those who are contesting the election under this constitution. The dividing line, if this matter comes to rightful show, the dividing line will be those on the side of that constitution and those on the side of taking it down. Everything will not count. Anybody who can be counted to the side of the constitution will be treated as a full and a including presidential candidates, including everybody. It is this constitution that is endangering the whole world. That is why 230 million people have become nuisance to everybody everywhere in the world. Look at the number of young people trying to escape from Nigeria. What is chasing their country as defined by this constitution? So all of those go to swear to defend and oppose this constitution to hold power and begin to share the blood of people every month. And bidding GDP to us, and those who are planning to go to replace them, they are together. There's no difference between APC or PDP or Labour Party. Let anybody who knows how to find people tell him. Let anybody who knows how to find him. Let anybody who knows how to find anybody else who is saying he wants to come and replace those in government house. By which constitution are you going to provide anything different? We have 36 states that were imposed. 7 local government areas that were imposed. We have 812 governments we have to finance. Where will the money to give anything to the citizen come from? A union of 5 institutions, a union of 5 governments that was working well. Emma Bara doing well in the east, Awolowo doing well in the west, and people doing well in where he was. Midwest came, were all doing well because they owned their lands, they owned their resources. They own the power to work out those resources. That was why Eastern Region built Oji River. Oji River power plant was where the power source came to build Port Harcourt. It was Emma that built Transamadi with the electricity from Oji River before I came. Why did we abandon what to bring us into the 20th century? We began to go back to the 15th century with the people who are not going anywhere. Why can't stand together and say this union must be our union, or we resolve it so that those who want to move with the rest of the world can move in their own direction. But now we're all locked down, packed into 68 places, and people who have education are going all over the place to say we'll manage. And the young people are running in every direction, crossing the Dutch with the legs, swimming to pass the Mediterranean Sea. And you have no pity for them. You are telling us about the economy because the figures have all increased. World Bank says yes, you are doing reform. That reform, the figures are bound because you devalued the currency. Now sharing the money, but it's not half of the other people getting worse. IMF has said so. The US mission in Nigeria says so. To say yes, there may be marginal improvement in GDP and all of what we want to. But the people are sinking back into the poverty. When will it become, when will that change? If we don't turn off the tap they don't owe you any obligation for any service or any kind of goodness under this constitution. The constitution actually absolves them of responsibility towards the citizens, but it gives them power to sell crude oil and share billions every month. And it puts the guns in the hands you can't even say anything to them because they have immunity and all of that. There's nothing that's going to improve. Election will not improve. Electoral reform, those who gather to say, oh, electoral reform, now a new electoral umpire that is coming, what is he coming to do other than to give another lease of 4 years to this operation of this abomination? And so the responsibility back to the people. If our people will not listen, because everything they need to know has been reduced into writing. If you go to the website of NINAS and go to read the post-march, there are more than 500 broadcasts like this you are here now that will enlighten people into knowing what has to happen for their life to improve. There's nothing that will arrest this killing going on until in military areas and elsewhere, until those who live in that danger become part of how to organize their security. And you have to get to that, that the constitution goes down. As it is with that security, so it is with all the other things we are complaining about corruption, in which the pay to the treasury is given to the heads of the executive branch, and they don't owe you any obligation to give you any part of this section 6, section 6 of this constitution, absorb them of responsibility towards you. They don't owe you education, they don't owe you care, they don't owe you food, they don't owe you anything at all. In black and white, and lawyers are going all over Nigeria pretending to be lawyers. Those interested in electoral petition and the FCC case, where is the Nigerian bar station in this matter? What they said about this constitution that dragging everybody to death, that is endangering the whole of Africa is where it is now, because Nigeria is where it is. You hear it from Lumumba every time. The black man is where it is because of this abomination that is holding down the engine room of the black man. Even in the diaspora, their situation will not change unless something changes here, unless something changes in Africa. I'm not it's about to change in Africa if Nigeria remains where it is. And Nigeria is where it is on account of this unitary arrangement that now make those who find themselves Nigerians slaves in their homeland. Worse than apartheid. Worse than apartheid. It's an emergency, and we've now been told that those who will suffer when it snaps are going to take it upon themselves to come here and solve the problem. That's what that CPC means, for those who do not know.
So, I mean, typically with all this, we have just a few minutes to go. It looks like the government is now on panic mode. I hear that the Nigerian president will meet with Trump. What we don't yet know is whether it's going to be in Washington or whether it will be in South Africa. We're hearing they could meet in South Africa to discuss. If they are going to meet, what do you think will likely be on the table for discussion?
I already know, because I'm a part of what is in the file from where Trump is working. They process this danger that was coming towards them. They processed it for 7 whole months between January and July of 2019. They came to the conclusion they will support the proposition we brought for how to solve that problem, which is to take down the land constitution in a manner that allows the owners to rework it. Everybody has told them in every way possible. And so, going to meet to talk to Trump, I doubt if any Trump is there. But Trump already instructed what will happen. Trump, if there was anybody with any modicum of ability to think, government, when the Cruz and Co began to do what they wanted to do, should that not have been the time to look those in Nigeria who know what is going on in the state? The Cruz was at the center of how things were processed in 2019. It was in his office that most of the closed-door meetings took place. They sent Osinbajo to come to lie that no killings were taking place. Osinbajo was called a shameless liar. And the people he came to say that no killings were taking place, not quite 2 weeks or 3 after he came the daughter of the Yoruba, the leader of the time, was killed. And, so they went on and on and on, lying to themselves about everything. What will Tinubu tell Trump today if he has if I will be surprised if he makes himself available to be told anything when the matter is right there and you are denying it. People are dying in life in this day and age of internet where evidence is found everywhere. You pretend that it's not so, and then you think you can go and lie to the outside world about what? Just here. Let us listen to those who know and are happy to. The NINAS is in a position to guide Nigeria on what to do now. If those in Africa think that they can go with Ghana must go like they're trying to do, or to just run their mouth, I'm sorry for them. I'm sorry for them because the people they tend to lie to have evidence, and evidence was gathered when Buhari was president, and everything was stopped. Nothing has changed since it has even become worse. And so, before to anything, they must see that you understand what the problem is. If Tinubu does not understand that the very constitution of Nigeria 1999 is the reason security has broken down, is the reason nobody is going to be able to stop Boko Haram, is the reason nobody is going to be able to reverse the poverty that is sinking Nigeria and causing Nigeria to be danger to the rest of the world. People stop and people begin to run direction. I do not see what is going to. I'll be surprised if I see him discussing with Trump. I'll be very surprised if they say that, because these are all the. How far can propaganda carry you? How far can propaganda carry you? So one of them said that they were already ahead, that they changed everything. What is the meaning of serving secret in circumstance? When you leave the account, the solution to the problem is to top up the tax. I can assure us, if they will find the discipline and the stronger in their hand alone, it's not in the hand of the government or national state alone, because if it becomes war, all of us will suffer. So we're going to take it as badly as it can be taken against them. And the line of the people we have faced everywhere, we see them in our neighborhood, and they want to put election in 2027. Because if you don't stop them, Tinubu will have no motivation to stop running himself. If we they will again and swear that everything will remain as. But meanwhile, the U.S. has rolled a plan for what to do to save themselves from the terror we are breathing in our face. There's no other way left. If there was any way left, I would have been the one setting them. There's no one of them that has not been involved. Where's people in this matter? From Nadeko to now, is there any time Tinubu has distance from what can solve the problem? Or who among them are we going to be explaining these things to all again? They must find it a trouble, a serious trouble, and that trouble is what they will have no further notice. The meaning of culture of particular concern is that the U.S. will go into that space. You saw how Israel solved Hamas. They because Iran is a covenant that says sanctity of sovereignty is not there anymore. It has been rejected. So they say, who give America right to come? It is their national security concern that we are breeding terror that can come to hit them later. And they have to go to where the terror is breeding. That's what they are doing.
All right.
They have given a week to say, if you can solve it yourself, we don't need to come.
All right.
If you can't, you don't, we will solve it in our own way. I do not want to come. I want to solve the problem. We have the capacity to solve the problem. The work NINAS has done is capable of solving this problem in less than 90 days. In fact, 60 days if a meeting is summoned inside November.
Thank you. I think that would be a good place to leave it. It's still an ongoing conversation. Thank you so much, Tony Nnadi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your submissions here on the Eastern Eye. Tony Nnadi is the Secretary General of LNC and co-convener of NINAS. Thank you once again for your time and thoughts on the program.
Thank you for your time.
That's the Eastern Eye for tonight. We'll be back here tomorrow with another edition of the program. My name is Alex Ogbodo. Good night.